Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are actress Joan Benedict Steiger and musician Houman Pourmehdi. Actress, writer Joan Benedict Steiger started her career as a dancer, a little girl dancing, and she moved on to appearances in TV, where she was on Candid Camera, The Steve Allen Show, General Hospital, and Days of Our Lives. Welcome, Joan.
Thank you.
Where did that little girl dancing start?
Well, I don't know. It was not in my family because my mother was not in show business. She didn't dance, but at an early age, I loved to dance, and she recognized that, and she took me to all my classes. So,
so she did?
Yes.
You had classical training?
Well, yes. And so when I was about 9, she decided we'd go to Rome. Actually, she put me on a ship, and I was off to Rome at 9 years old. And I was a member of the Royal Opera Ballet School.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, that's fantastic. Did you want to act or did you want to be a dancer?
No, I wanted to be a dancer.
You did?
But my heart was in tap dancing.
Ann Miller, let me tell you, Ann Miller used to live across the street from me, and her mother used to say, everyone loves a tap dancer.
That's
she used
right.
to tell me that all the time.
Well, to this day, I had a lesson yesterday.
You did?
Oh, sure. I tap 3 times a week. Yeah.
Everyone loves a tap dancer.
Yes.
But did you want to, did you try to get into acting?
No, I was always just, I wanted to dance. So we spent about a year in Rome, and then I discovered that my turnout, this is a turnout,
yes,
first position, my turnout was like this.
It didn't go all the way.
No, it didn't go all the way. So I said, I really love tap dancing. So from there we went to Paris. I went to school in Paris. And
how did your mother have the gumption to do all this?
My mother was very unusual. She was very ahead of her time. When she sent me to Europe, they said, oh, why are you sending to Europe? Aren't the American schools good enough?
Yes.
No. I want her to have languages and to see the world. Yeah.
So you were born in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And then and she had this foresight.
Yes.
To take you to Europe.
Yes, she had great foresight. And I always thank her. Every time I'm dancing, I say, thank you, Mommy.
Yeah, she's tapping your feet.
You can't tap dance and not be smiling.
Did you go to school in Rome and in Paris?
No, I had private tutoring.
Oh, you did?
She
even had that?
Yes. I had both of those. Homeschooling, right.
Which is what we call it now, but before it used to be private tutoring on the set. And
yes. Well, I had a professor that came to the house in Rome, and as we'd be studying, I'd be up on my toes and dancing around, and she said, oh, siedati, Giovanna. Giovanna, dobbiamo studiare.
That's fantastic. So your mother was right. She did give you the language, and she gave you the experience of being in Europe. How long did you stay in Europe?
About a year and a half altogether.
But you learned to speak.
Well, but it shows you, Joan. Here we are, the two Joans.
I know.
That at an early age, which they do in Europe and all over, learn languages at a much earlier age than we do here.
And you caught on right away.
Yes, well, that is my forte, not math.
No. It's the other side of our brain, right?
That's
the
not
artistic side.
Yes.
Well, when you came back, did you take acting lessons?
So we came back, and I remember I was 16, and my mother said to my father, "Well, Joan's decided she wants to act, wants to be an actress." So I remember him looking at me. Great, okay.
So that was easy.
So
Were you
that
an
was
only
easy.
child?
Well, I was an only child for 7 years.
Oh, for that a period
Yes,
of
then
time.
my brother was.
Then how did you get your big break in TV? Because that's where you really started.
Yes, I started there. I'm trying to think how I got. Well, this is funny. Of course now I can't think of his name. Bernie Brillstein, who became so big in the business. Well, every time I saw him later on, I'd say, "Oh, Bernie, you gave me my first job." He said, "Joan, are you kidding? That was my first job."
Oh, he was just
at William
working?
Morris.
He was just working then?
He was a William Morris agent, and he had just started.
Because he built the big company.
Yes, and so William Morris, and I got that first job on the Steve Allen Show. And
But they were using different kinds of equipment. You do TV now, but they were doing different kinds of equipment.
Yes.
And they
because I've done 3 camera work and all kinds of camera work because the other cameras were so big.
They were huge. Were they like kinescope?
Yes, yes, the kinescopes. Mm-hmm.
And I think they had to just keep playing, didn't they?
Yes.
Because you couldn't edit. And
in fact, many of the kinescopes for the Steve Allen show were lost.
I remember.
Remember that story? Oh, very, very sad. Yeah.
But those were like huge.
Yes.
Now we're like, look at these little digital cameras, and you can do anything with them. Then you also worked on stage. You've done a one-woman show, or
I
two
did.
one-woman shows.
Well, I did Leona, about Leona Helmsley.
Who wrote that?
2 people, and
you didn't write it.
I didn't write that.
But how did you say Leona's nasty words?
Well, that's a great part. All the good parts are mean, nasty, or strong, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the thing is, she was the first woman that started the co-ops in New York City.
She's fantastic. She was a great woman.
At that time, she was surrounded by men. She was just a woman, so she developed a hard shell. And her kind of breakdown came when she had an only son, and he worked with the company. And she asked him at this one time to just do one more job in Florida. And he said, well, he wasn't feeling too well. He wanted to take a vacation. She said, well, just do this one. He went down there, and his heart exploded.
Oh.
So it was a tremendous, tremendous
It was hard on her. She was probably blaming herself
Yes.
for making him do the work and all that. When in essence, it probably wasn't her fault.
No, of course not. Yes.
And then you did another?
Well, that was just recently in November. I wrote it, The Loves of My Life.
Oh, you did write it?
Yeah.
Oh, then this gets into your personal life.
Yes.
This is what I was going to ask
That's
you
right.
about. Okay, this is great. Let's touch on that, because you have showbiz all the way through these husbands. These 3 husbands.
Those are the men that I like, that I'm attracted to,
But
and that I have something in common with.
Yeah, well, that's how you found him. John Myers?
Yes.
And what did he do?
John had just come back from Italy after 12 years. And,
did he speak Italian
Oh,
with
yes,
you?
fluent. So that was another thing. So very unusual for me to be speaking Italian with him. He was a Norwegian from Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Oh, perfect.
And his mother kept saying, "Why are you talking like that, you crazy kid?"
That was great.
So Richard Rogers saw him on the Jack Parr show. He was hysterically funny and had a singing voice like an unbelievable opera.
Oh, so he really was, he was a performer.
Oh, yes, tremendous.
I see.
So Richard Rogers called him in, and anyway, he was found to do Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music.
Oh, how great.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize
So then
that.
he asked me
so
to
he
marry.
was on stage?
He was on stage, and he asked me to marry him, and he said, no, Richard Rogers wants me to tour. This will be the first touring company of Sound of Music. And I said, well, I was just getting started, and everything was just starting to happen for me. And the producer of Candid Camera said, well, okay, Joan, now we're signing you. We want you as a regular and the whole thing.
And what was your name then? Joan Benedict?
Joan Benedict, yes. And actually, That's my father's first name.
Oh, that's great. Benedict, great name.
Yeah, my name is Joan Canizzaro. I'm Italian.
You
descent.
are Italian, so that helped a little bit when you went
Well,
to
yes, but not really.
But
So I said, well, gee, I don't know, because at the same time, I had just met Rod.
you had met Rod
Yes,
then?
well, I did a TV show.
Way
Yes,
before.
I met all my guys in New York. I was acting with them.
Oh.
And so Rod
And we're
and
talking
I-
about Rod Steiger.
Rod Steiger.
Okay.
That was my second husband.
But your
Yes.
first husband was John, performing.
Myers. Yes, So we toured the United States for 3 years and bought our home in Los Angeles. And then we were married 30 years, and he passed away from cancer.
So that was a hard loss because you'd
Oh,
worked
yes.
together for
Yes.
so long
Oh,
and been
yes.
together.
We had a perfect marriage.
But
Lovely.
somebody stepped into your life right
Yes.
after that, an Oscar winner.
Yes. Well, here's what happened, because I knew Rod in New York, and we were dating. And then he went back to, or came back here to do a film. And so after John died, gosh, I had seen everything that Rod had done. I always loved Rod.
Everyone
too.
saw everything that Rod did.
Yes.
And Rod's still
He
on
was so-
TV.
Yes. And it's strange. I'll be in another room and the TV is on, and it's Rod or John.
Oh,
or
you can hear
Jeremy.
John?
Well, I hear all of them.
Oh, and
Well,
Jeremy. Tell us
and
about Jeremy.
Yes. Well, Jeremy Slate, I also met in New York, and we
And that was
worked
after
together.
Rod passed
And
on.
after Rod passed away again of cancer, I got this call from Jeremy, because we had been kind of in touch over the years. And so he said, well, why don't you get up here to Monterey? He was retired. And I said, well, I don't think so. Well, why don't you come down here? So he said, well, okay. Well, he came down and he stayed for 3 years.
Oh, that was perfect, right? So that filled your kind
Yes,
of loneliness.
yes.
And I know, I'm not trying to skip over this,
No.
but I know you're writing a memoir.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, are
Yes.
you keeping a diary, or how do you remember these stories?
Well, that's the thing. Well, I have loads of pictures.
Oh, that's
And you know
great.
how pictures remind you of
Right.
The happenings and everything. So
Have you started writing?
I have a million notes, and I've also met with a couple of people
I was
about
gonna say,
working
are you
with
gonna
me.
use a ghostwriter?
I need somebody, because it's too it's too much.
We don't call them ghostwriters anymore, do we? What do we
No.
call them?
Well,
They go like Joan Steiger,
Joan Steiger with
With whoever it is.
Yes, I need some help. It isn't that I can write a lot. In fact, I write too much, and it's not my favorite thing. And I like to get out of the house.
So you can give them the notes?
Yes.
But did you keep a diary?
No.
You never
No, I
did?
just have a lot of scrapbooks.
Oh, so that helps too.
Yes, yes.
And you're still acting.
Oh, yes.
Because you were on
Yeah,
Dollhouse.
sure. I was on the Dollhouse.
Do you go for auditions?
Oh, sure. I go all the time. I love auditions.
Do the same kind of people come for the auditions that look like you? Or?
Well,
Because sometimes with these young boys and young
Yes,
women,
yeah.
they all look alike.
oh, they do, don't they? Well, it's interesting. It's so different. When I started in New York, I could walk into any agency. I had like 5 or 6 national commercials running at the same time. And I'd walk in, they say, oh, hi, Joan, come on in. Gee, we have something for you. Everything was so open.
They had work for you.
Work for me. And it was open and more intimate. It seemed on a smaller scale, even though I was in New York.
But you'll be writing about those things.
Yeah, I'll
Because
have
those
to.
are the
See, I
things
didn't-
we need to know
I just
about.
thought about that.
How one hand helped the other hand. Where
Yes.
nowadays one hand stabs the other.
Stabs the other or something.
So I think those things are really important to perpetuate.
I did. I had a lot of help, and then once I got started on the Steve Allen show, I was on that for a year, and I did along with I'm trying to think which came first, the commercials or the skits, But I did the Hazel Bishop commercials for a year.
Oh, Hazel Bishop Cosmetics.
Yes,
Fantastic.
for a year on the Sunday night show.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, we can't wait for your memoir.
Okay.
You gotta come back and bring your
I'd love to.
book with you, because we've had such a good time today.
Oh, well, I love being here. It's so sweet of you to have me.
Oh, you were a delight. Thank you.
Thank you,
Don't
Joan.
go away. We'll be right back with Houman Pourmehdi and his drum. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with award-winning master percussionist, composer, recording artist, teacher, and concert musician, Houman Pourmehdi. He was born and raised in Tehran, where at the age of 3, his grandfather gave him a tombak. He studied at the Center for the Preservation and Propagation of National Music in Iran, and he worked with all of the masters, the master artisans in every field of music. It was at this center where he became interested in the spiritual path of the Sufi. In 1988, Houman moved to Chicago, where he introduced the haunting sounds of Persian music. Why did you move to Chicago?
Hi, Joanne. I have the whole family, the whole, gang in Chicago. So
You did?
Yes, I have like the whole, my grandma, my uncles, aunts, cousins, everybody. They moved to United States a long time ago, about 55 years ago.
Oh, so they were already established in Chicago,
That's
and
right.
all that music was being perpetuated there?
Well,
or
actually,
because it was family?
Well, it comes from my father's side, my music. And my mother's side moved here in Chicago.
Oh, so you kind of left your father's
Yes.
side. But your father gave you a drum like this?
That's true. When I was 3, my grandfather and my father gave me the first, which was a disposable tombak when I was a kid. So,
What's a disposable tombak? Smaller?
well, it's smaller and fragile, so every week I break one of them. So
Oh, you
they gave me another one
Is
next
that
week.
right?
That's right.
It wasn't made out of wood
No,
like this?
no.
Oh, and then do you have to take lessons to play this?
Yes, actually, it started at 16 when I went to the school first time and studying with the grandmasters of this instrument that time.
And when you were in the classes in Chicago, they had the masters there for you to study with, or were you studying classical?
No,
Western, I meant.
Actually, I studied Persian percussion in Iran. I went to school, and I studied physics in Iran. So,
Oh, you did.
so it's kind of I had 2 subjects that are going on at the same time. But my study basically in Persian classical and Persian percussion was in Iran, and I moved to Chicago and then studying, going to college, and
Oh, you went to college
yeah.
there. I see. Did they have any classes in Persian music?
No, actually, I general theory in music and general music classes in college.
All the work that you've done is actually had to do with preserving this ancient instrument, or many ancient instruments. And did that all come from your country?
Yes, this all. It's in our history. We have many different instruments that is been damaged or not played through the history.
That's what I wondered, because did you have to go back and study the ancient?
Yes, there is text and history and then heart-to-heart stories about this instrument, and we try to kind of put it together, the information, and then kind of make the instrument again, and then try to find the nature of that time and ambience of that time to create what kind of history and what kind of people were. So
that too. What kind of people were playing them?
well, there's many lines of history in these instruments, because our history music was damaged and through the time. So basically, we don't have a strong documented history in music, but we have places that shows this instrument has been played through the people.
Well, so you would see maybe a picture of something. Would you have to then rebuild that instrument?
Exactly.
And
That's
then-
how we did it.
And what happened was there's certain woods, certain trees you use, I guess?
That's true, because we just go to the place, to the tribal,
Oh, the area.
see the area, that what kind of tree they have, what kind of people, and what kind of culture they have. So according to
I see.
recreating basically
I
the
see, because you'd go to the actual province or
That's
where
true.
they had their tents.
That's
The-
true.
I see. That's very interesting, because every time you talk about some kind of instrument from the Middle East, it comes from a different tree, or it has to be sharpened the right way, or it has to be done very specifically. The reeds have to be.
That's true.
And it is, and it comes all from those different areas.
Right, the nature and the soil, everything
that
counts.
too.
Everything
Does
counts.
it?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So one of the instruments is called the ney. It's what is it? A Persian reed pipe.
It's a Persian reed pipe. It's a piece of reed, so empty inside and 6 holes.
How
And,
long? would you say?
depends to the tuning and keys. There's the long ones, there's the small ones, and then there's a famous ney that Rumi started his book.
Oh, it
Listen
is?
to the reeds, yeah.
Rumi did he use a ney?
Yes, they at that time, ney was one of the most important spiritual sound of.
Well, I know that kind of music from, say, Joan Gasparian.
Gasparian,
Is it
yes.
the same kind of instrument?
Jivan plays duduk.
Duduk, but is it a reed also?
It's a birch actually. It's
So
kind
see,
of-
you're talking about a
Yeah.
different wood again.
Yes, different
yeah.
wood. That's true. Jivan actually he plays the duduk, which is in Armenia and the northwest of Iran, and then we also have a duduk. We call it balaban.
Oh, you have
So-
it. You have the same thing, but is it made out of different wood?
No, same
Same wood.
same wood reed, and then a reed on the top. There is a little reed like a saxophone.
He's fantastic. Have you worked with him?
Yes, we have a CD released together called Pangea.
Oh, you did.
Yes, and then before this window CD, we have our last release was with Joan Gasparian, Swapan Chowdhury, Miroslav Tadik, Piray Brafar, and myself, and Randy Glass.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, how many CDs have you made? Lots.
Well, actually, in our ensemble 10 together with this
Wow.
one.
And the ensemble is called?
Lian Ensemble.
It's Lian.
Lian Ensemble.
And what
yes.
does that mean?
Lian means brilliant, or the elements of reflecting the light, the truth.
So you use a ney in that ensemble?
Yes, a
And
lot.
what about daire? What is it?
Daire.
Daire?
Yes. Daire is another type of frame drum that we use in Iranian music, classical music, and also it's very famous through the Middle East. They have different names for it. For example, the Uzbek called doire.
Uzbek calls it what?
Doire.
Uh-huh.
So it's same of daire, so with a different accent. And then this type of frame drum is all over the Middle East.
It's a frame drum?
It's a frame drum. Yeah, you hold it in the hand.
Oh, I see. But it's not like this.
No, this is not a frame drum.
What does framed mean?
Frame drum means the body of the drum is smaller than the surface of the drum. Anything.
Oh, it's like a tambourine
exactly.
size?
Yeah, but in different size, bigger size.
But
so.
I know.
And
I
then-
know what it is. It's a skin on the top, and it's
Exactly.
like the width of a tambourine, but no shings on it, right?
You know, sometimes we have hoops inside, and the different sizes. For example, we have an instrument in Persian music called daf, D-A-F. So that has many hoops
Is
inside.
it the same thing? Do they use that in Morocco?
In
That-
Morocco, yes,
that
they
drum?
play tar. It's very popular drum in Middle East.
Oh, I see. I didn't know. I didn't. That's the daire.
Yes, daire.
I see. And then the kurake,
Kurake was like a timpani type of sound.
like a ting ting.
No,
more?
big like a big bass, and then we play
Oh.
with a stick.
I see.
So it's
So these are all kind of drummy instruments we're talking about.
yes, kurake was one of the oldest ancient Persian drums that in the war and then old times, the history of Iran, the soldiers played this instrument in front of the the army, and in ceremonies they play this drum because it's loud and big. So this,
Do they attach it to them?
no, it's
They hold it?
very big. Actually, it comes from the timpani comes from that
But
drum.
the timpani is like
It's
a
very
big
big.
kettle, like a kettle,
Yes,
right?
right.
And is that why they call you a percussionist, because of the drum,
Yes.
or any other instruments?
Well, percussion in general, it's an instrument of rhythms.
I
We
see.
play, sounds and rhythms, through this skin drum or synthetic drum these days. So,
Skin
like this one,
or synthetic is what? Just a
Like
fake
plastic,
skin?
plastic,
Oh, plastic. Fake skin.
film, yeah.
film.
Yeah.
How have the sounds changed?
Well, it's they have many ways to get it close to the skin. Yeah, it's pretty good now these days. Technology has been helping us.
Does it have to do with the base of it, the wood, or?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's fabrics, different kind of fabrics and plastic, melting together. So we're trying to make it, work.
You're a composer, and do you compose on the drum? What do you compose on?
Oh, I do a lot of different compositions, fourth rhythms, tonebacks, and daffs, and many percussion I do.
You can compose on those
Yes,
instruments?
of course. It's the same as the Western reading and writing, same thing.
How do you read? How do you read the music to play? Like if you had like 5 people playing this, how do they read the music?
Well, the same way of Western writing.
I never could understand it.
Yeah.
It seems so difficult to write for a drum.
No, it's actually we have a sign for each hand and each sound.
Oh, that's different, right?
Yeah, we use the timing, Western timing, and then we write the sign on the top of the timing. So basically, everyone knows what time and what to play.
So that's how you compose.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about this Sufi world that you're also collaborate in, right? With this, with this, and with the Leon group too. What is that?
Well, it's the Sufi music of Iran and Persian Sufi music. It goes way back thousands of years, And then what happened that we found that we have a very strong common point with Tuvan singers.
And Tuvan is from where?
Tuvan is west of Mongolia, so a very small population in Russian Federation.
So it's not Russian, it's not Chinese.
No.
They're their own.
They're Tuvans, yeah, exactly. So some people make mistakes between Mongols and Tuvans.
That's what I was wondering.
But there are Tuvans, there are a very small population, about 200 and some thousand people, all together in west of Mongolia.
And what kind of music do they make?
What happened that they create sound, a bass sound, and then sometimes different melodies on top of that sound, and person at the same time can create 2 or 3 layers of sound.
So it's like an instrument. Their
Exactly.
voice is like an instrument. Does it sound like an instrument?
It sounds like, flute sometimes.
Does it?
It's very interesting, and then they play fiddles at the same time. So they have different kind of fiddles.
They can sing and they play the fiddle too?
At the same time, yes.
Is it religious or not?
It's a
Or
big
spiritual?
It's a spiritual big tradition, all tied to the nature. They are very into the nature.
I see.
The music is tied to the nature, and then with like a river sound, wind sound.
They do all those sounds?
They all do, exactly.
And then is it all improvised? Or do you write the music for it?
Some of the parts are improvised, and some of the parts we kind of put them together. When 2 ensembles sit, that's what we're doing right now. We sit down and then we said, okay, let's take this tune, reshape it.
And then if you use this, what would you do? Show me, hold this for me, and give me a couple of beats before we leave. And then you would use that. Would you use this as part? Who conducts? I mean, are you the conductor? Would you say,
no.
How do you get together to play?
Well, there's a group on ensemble work. See, we both ensemble sit down where we decide what to play, and then we put our opinion into this, and then we little by little we built a new composition.
But who starts it when you're going to all play together?
We're going to have someone to do it each time. Someone, which, for example, if the Taurus starts the melody, so she will start. If I started or our.
I see. So you decide ahead of time. So that's more or less the conductor,
yes.
The person who starts.
So each time is different conductor.
I see. I see. And how do you play this?
Well, this is a finger drumming actually, and what happened? We use all 10 fingers. So we in Persian music, and then we use all these 10 fingers.
So it gives a different sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can make sound like wind sound.
That sounds like percussion to me.
Yeah, and then we have like a different pitch of sound.
You're snapping?
Exactly.
So that's what you teach at Cal Arts?
Yes.
You teach this instrument?
I teach this instrument, toneback. I teach daff and doire. And also I teach in program called multi-focus percussion. So I have students from all over the world. They study with me in Persian perspective, or
That's
drumming.
fantastic.
Yes.
And the idea that you would have this Persian class at Cal Arts, which is totally California, really, not even you know, anything else but California-based kind of thing. And you're teaching classes there.
Yes. Yes.
And the finger movement, that was interesting. That creates the different sounds.
Exactly.
You always think somebody just beats on a drum.
Right. There is a hand drumming and there is a finger drumming. Well, I'll categorize this as a finger drumming. Of course, we use our hand, but it's more, you know, use of finger than like only hands, like some of the djembe or other drumming. But this is more like a fingering. So we have many. You know,
many sounds.
Many sounds.
Oh,
sounds.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It was fantastic, Houman. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thanks for watching us. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. And the email is jaquinn1@aol.com. See you next time.